Doors closed, Claudia. Go.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Everyone who is there in the sanctuary of Metro East Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and greetings to everyone like myself who is currently watching remotely. I'm Reverend Dr. Claudia Hall. My pronouns are she or they, and we are absolutely delighted to have you here at the service today. As you can tell, this is not our usual Sunday routine. I came down with COVID this last week and I'm still in isolation, so I have the ability to be on video, so I want to say a deep, heartfelt thanks to our audiovisual team and to our board for being willing to be flexible on this, and also great gratitude for everyone who did manage to come out despite the snow and the ice that have been in our community. It's really good to see folks today. I am not getting as great a view of everybody as I wish I could, but I am seeing folks as you filter in and sit down, so I'm glad to see you, and I hope that you will take a chance today and talk to some people and fellowship with one another. It is a clean Sunday, that's why I've been banned from the building, seeing as how I'm carrying the plague, but also we're going to not have coffee hour refreshments in an attempt to keep all germs to ourselves and not share them with anyone. We welcome everyone today to this home of comfort, spirit, justice, and hope, for we are Unitarian Universalists. An important ritual in our Unitarian Universalist faith is the lighting of our chalice. We have so many different interpretations of this ritual, including that it stands for the light of reason, the warmth of community, and the flame of hope. As we light this chalice today, we say that this could be for all of those reasons and more. If you're watching elsewhere and you have a chalice or a candle that you want to light, please light it now, and we'll all join together in saying the unison words that are found on our screen. We hallow this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage. Will you join with me as you're willing and able in a spirit of prayer and meditation? Spirit of justice, may we each believe in our capacity to bend the moral arc of the universe toward justice in our own day. May we each reach a hand out to someone to help lift them up. May we each use our voices wherever we are able to speak up for justice. May we each be surrounded by community here that will help us find justice in our own lives where we are oppressed. And may we always keep our eyes on the goal of a world where justice, true justice and equality, are shared by all people, rather than unevenly offered as it is today. Amen, and blessed be. For our welcome moment this morning, we invite you all to feel free to turn to a neighbor that you don't know as well at this time and introduce yourself. Not to give a long chat, but just get to know one another or get to smile a little bit through our masks and give a wave. After a few moments to greet each other, we'll sing our first hymn, which is number 300 in the Gray Hymnal, or projected on the wall. It's a tradition here at our Metro East Unitarian Universalist congregation to place each service within the larger sources and principles that we as Unitarian Universalists hold dear. While we are a religion that has no requirement of creed or belief, we do have things that we support overall, things that, as our hymn just said, our martyrs have died that we might be able to express. The service today is an exploration of the idea of justice and how it is woven throughout all of our principles. The idea of justice comes from the Hebrew prophets into our tradition, and they were among the first who were concerned more with the equal application of justice than they were with the nobility getting ahead. Today, as we watch billionaires getting away with such devastating things, children who are born in poverty being shuffled into a school-to-prison pipeline, especially if their bodies are brown or black, the idea of equal justice is needed even more than ever. This concept is woven throughout our theology, from our recognition in the first principle that every individual has worth and dignity as an inherent part of what they are as a person, to the idea that freedom to search for the truth is important, to how we stress that the democratic process is crucial for our churches and our world, all the way through to our seventh principle, where we respect the natural world because we are all interdependent, one on each other. No individual or being or species is above it all, and without justice, we can never realize our goal of beloved community, where all are equal. Our goal as a community, our goal as a religion, and our goal as a world should be to have justice roll down like a river, and may it pour over all of us like waterfalls. Amen. As part of our weekly worship service, we take time for the expression of our joys, concerns, and sorrows. This is one thing that has carried us through all these long years of our wandering as a church and as a people. We say that this means that we are home, a place where we can lay down our burdens and where others can be helped along the way. We can share what weighs us down, we can share what fills us with joy, and those who love us surround us in both our good times and in our troubles. If you would like to recognize a joy, sorrow, or milestone, We invite you to come forward now, row by row, as you are directed, and place a stone or several in the water. I invite you now to come forward and choose a stone and place it in the water, a symbol of anything that you carry in your heart. Let us now be in a spirit of prayer and meditation. One of the things that we are most grateful for is the presence of children in our congregation. They're incredibly important to us, not only because they are the future of our world, but also because you are our here and our now. As such, I invite them and us to ponder what it means to live justly and in a just world as we watch a video story today, and then you will be sung out for your RE class.
Hello, today I'll be reading a book titled Justice Is, written by Preet Bharara and illustrated by Sue Cornelison. Justice is important. It takes hard work and an open mind. To find justice, ask all kinds of people to join your search. Justice needs to hear every side of the story. Justice asks questions, lots of them. Justice isn't afraid to right a wrong. Standing up for justice can get lonely. It can even be dangerous, but justice is worth the risk. Justice can be slow. It can even be denied for a time. Sometimes people worry that there is no justice in the world. But don't lose hope. justice is always there, waiting for good people to find their voices. Waiting for brave people to stand up together, because justice can't do it alone. At times, it needs an army at its back. Sometimes, one clear voice can shine through the darkness and say, "This is not right." But we must always stand watch, because injustice is always waiting too. We, the people, must make laws to protect justice. And we must make sure that no one is above the law. Because justice matters. Together, we can make the world a better place for everyone. The end.
Our next hymn is number 118, This Little Light of Mine. Well, good morning again, everybody. It is so warming to my heart to see everybody as you came up for Joys and Concerns, and to just imagine the energy that is in the room. I love so much the energy that everyone brings to our new space, and I'm just so sorry that I can't be with you in person today. Although I am incredibly grateful, because when I first started my ministry career 26 years ago now, it would have been unheard of for a minister to be able to do something remotely. So this is just a wonderful side effect, I guess you could say, of everything with the pandemic, is that we now have this capacity and this ability for us to be together even when one or more of us are ill. So for that, it is a blessing, and we are grateful. I wanted to start this service by saying thank you so much to everyone who is here, for our hardworking volunteers who do such an incredible job. They unlock the doors, provide a welcoming space for our kids, no matter what is going on in their own lives, who create and play our music. We could not do these services without Joy and our AV team, who, if Alex and Katie put everything together for us, who broadcast the services, who made it possible for me to be here with you all today on the screen as you're in the building. And also for everyone that helps with setup and breakdown so that we can help clean up after ourselves. We owe an intense debt of gratitude to the Masonic Brothers, who allow us to rent this space at the price we have gotten, so that we have a way to be together as we save up money to find a place of our own. And it's just a wonderful way that they're choosing to do this for us, to live out their commitments to helping their community. I offer a hello to anyone else who, like me, is watching this remotely or participating remotely, whether you're doing so today or sometime later. I'm glad that you're here, and I hope that you'll be inspired by a message of hope, love, and justice. I found writing this sermon to be kind of a hard one, actually, not because there's any conflict in my soul about it, but actually quite the opposite, because I feel down to the deepest part of my core that justice is critical for a society to thrive, but I feel equally deeply that America is drifting farther from any principles of justice every day. To start, I want to define what justice is. Justice, according to the Bible, is following the universal laws that God gave to people. When humans do that, they are considered to be righteous among the nations. That is a title given by the rabbis in Rabbinic Judaism to delineate those who have a noble spirit and are worthy of the place in Ha'olam Haba, the world to come, the sort of paradise realm that they envisioned would come when everything was in accordance with the laws that God had given to humanity. Now, I know that we as a denomination have come a long way from our original Christian roots, and to talk about the Hebrew Bible's concept of justice goes back even farther. But it is important because these are the literal bedrock concepts of justice that we have in the Western world. There are a lot of assumptions that come from the biblical descriptions that even atheists and humanists don't often question, such as the idea that there are laws that should be universal for human conduct. Now, this really does matter, because if everything is relative, then how humans treat each other just boils down to whatever tradition you've been raised in, and there's no ethical idea to be had. Some people, too, in fact, take this approach, and they say that we shouldn't question how other countries treat women or children, because their culture is different, and so that makes it acceptable to marry off little girls or to let the child be beaten to death if they burn dinner. I'm seeing this attitude that culture dictates justice a lot with what's going on in Israel and the Middle East, but also the culture wars here in America as well. It's as though a lot of people have taken the approach that if someone on my side, whatever the side is doing a thing, then it must be fine. But if someone on the other side does it, they're evil and must be punished. All you have to do to see an example of this us versus them is to look at any of the litigation that is swirling around various presidential candidates right now to see how the exact same accusation can be made against both candidates, and they both spin it that they're in the right and the other guy is bad, and it starts to become very difficult to see where justice could be found. When you relativize morals and ethics completely, it precludes the idea of humans ever being able to come together as a species, because so long as there is one group that thinks that might makes right, then they get to lord it over us, force us to convert, and it's acceptable because that's just their culture, and the rest of us should just roll over and take it. If they want to commit genocide, well, that's a cultural practice. If they want to torture people or engage in horrific things that we don't even want to talk about on Sunday morning, well, that's acceptable behavior because that's what their religion dictates. They want to take away a woman's right to independence, self-expression, bodily autonomy, or moral agency. These are religious norms. You shouldn't interfere. As you can see, it becomes very problematic very quickly when we start talking about relativism in ethics. And as religious extremism is on the rise, we're seeing more and more where psychologically unstable, violent, sociopathic people are seizing power around the world and forcing their views on everyone in the name of truth. Right here, right now, in the state of Missouri, there is a bill to erase trans and gender nonconforming people from existence. Literally, they are trying to legislate people who are transgender out of existence, refusing to allow them to exist, denying them personal agency, and forcing these people to conform to a rigid binary determined at birth, as prescribed by a few legislators' religion. This is what it looks like to be just when there are no universals. But then if we take the other tack and say, well, we want there to be universal laws, but who gets to decide what these universals are? The people in power? The ones with the biggest guns? Whoever has the most money? Those that fit the patriarchal norms or have the better version of God? I don't have a perfect answer to these questions. And honestly, the more I tried to research it and come up with something, the more complicated it got, until I spent an incredibly long time researching philosophy, ethics, theology, all around the world, trying to figure out what I could hold up as a universal truth. The thing is that right now we're no longer small groups of people from around the world who could essentially ignore other people and focus on our own group when it comes to problems. No longer can we just sit in our own bubble of America or even Illinois or Missouri. We have to work together not only across state lines and country lines, but global lines. We have worldwide problems like climate change that require incredible shifts in how we treat each other and our planet if our species has any chance at survival. So I spent a long time the last few weeks reading academic articles, theological postulating, and an awful lot of postmodern thinkers who were bemoaning the fact that their own worldview was no longer sustainable because their idea that everything is relative breaks down when two groups start to clash. When it comes to being a Unitarian Universalist, we're right in the weeds with these folks. And in fact, some of you may have actually studied or read or thought about these very topics. There is one idea I came across in theology called apophatic or negative theology, where basically you try to describe God or some other giant concept only by what it is not. I was so desperate at this point to find some kind of universal justice I could talk about that I went ahead and went down that road as well, thinking maybe I could just describe justice by the things that justice isn't. This actually turned out to be a lot more productive than I thought it would be. Excuse me. And I think it became a little bit clearer in terms of philosophy and ethics and theology. So some things I figured out. Most everybody agrees that justice is not might makes right. Justice is not the rich getting richer and the poor being used and discarded. Justice is not having the outcome of an issue decided by your skin color, place of birth, religious identity, age, gender, sexuality, or wealth. Justice, if it exists, say these folks, cannot be a thing that is applied in any one way to one person or group, but then applied in a different way to a different person or group. Justice and equality are different concepts, but they are somehow linked in a way that we can't quite tease them apart completely. Human emotions make it hard to apply justice fairly. Fairness and justice are similar, but not the same. Okay, I thought, so now I'm getting somewhere. Now I can maybe think about what justice is based on flipping this inside out. Kind of like for any of us that are old enough to remember the old film images, you could sort of hold them up to a light sometimes and look through at the different negatives and see what you thought it could be. So if you look at it this way, look at it inside out as a negative image, justice should be something that's applied to all people the same way, without our human differences getting in the way. It is something that should govern our behaviors with each other on all levels, from local to global, and it's something that should provide a framework to guide pro-social behavior. After all, a guide that causes us to act badly towards one another couldn't be just. Justice is something that should encourage people to be the best version of themselves, not something that causes us to divide humanity up into us versus them. Justice, if it's going to help our planet survive, needs to include care and concern for the non-human world as well, because all of us are part of a much larger ecosystem. Justice, when you define it in these kind of broad terms, starts to look a lot like our principles, and honestly, a lot like the kind of world the ancient prophets spoke of. I don't think this is a coincidence, because the prophets spoke to power and wanted to see equality for all. And you use, drawing both on this and on the humanist idea that all are equal and that humans have to create the world we want to live in, drafted the principles we live by today. So, beneath all of our ideas of justice, you have to have an ethic of concern. of, dare I say it, love. After all, love is what takes a person from being an object, something that you can treat like a box or a doll and you can do with as you please, into being another human being, an individual, an entity worthy of care and compassion. When you love in a way that takes both yourself and the other into equality, then what I want for myself, how I want to be treated, and the kind of world I want to live in have to be things that I extend to other people, whether or not I like them. Now, this doesn't mean that we need to let the bullies run wild. Bad behavior can and should be checked, and having strong boundaries is an important part of loving yourself. But I can disagree with someone, with their behavior, with their beliefs, with their actions, and still want them to have access to equal justice because I want equality and justice for myself. This golden rule, this insistence that all humans need to be equal, is actually one of the few things that is present in all religious traditions and in humanist philosophy. And if anything, it can be the thing that serves as the starting point for our ethic of justice. If I want my boundaries to be respected, I must respect the boundaries of others. If I want to be seen and valued as a full human being, I must see and value others as fully human. If I want my child to have enough food, sturdy shelter, and a world that is not polluted, well, to get that world for my child, I ought to work for a world where it is there for every child, because we are all on the same planet. The pollution that I put in the air in America and the pollution that you put in the air in Indonesia, guess what? It doesn't stay there. It moves around. Too often we think that by dumping our waste and our toxicity in one place, it won't follow us elsewhere. And I have to say, whether it be our friend groups or whether it be actual toxic things in the water and the air, it's going to find us eventually, because nothing stays where we put it. This is not a new concept, and it's not an alien one. But what we struggle so often with is the difference between judgment and justice. Judgment is what folks say and do. Judging is what divides, whereas justice can unite. Judgmental attitudes are what separate and harm, us versus them, whereas justice gives equality and respect. Judgment differentiates between us, who we see as good and noble and true and right, and them, bad and ugly and wrong and false. There's no equality where there's judgment. The difference is that judgment doesn't love others as itself. It seeks to place some who judge over everyone else who is judged. It objectifies. You have the judges and the judged, one over top of many. Love of self and of neighbor can lead to a justice where all are equal. What is universal in humanity? Well, one thing that seems to be universal is our tendency to want to be the judge. What can counter that? Love, pure and simple, expressed in true equality, an ethic of justice applied equally to all. Love that accepts the person but sets limits on behavior, has healthy boundaries for all. A love that connects us one to another, reminds us that we are all inextricably linked, that each of us participates with and through the lives of each other, and that the only way to have peace and justice is to be peaceful and live justly. Love is, in the end, the only way to get justice, and only through loving ourselves and loving others as ourselves can we walk the road that leads to true justice, not judgment. May we each be able to learn to love ourselves, other humans, and the entire world with that kind of life-giving, boundary-setting, equality-making, justice-producing love that we can share with ourselves, each other, and our world. Amen, and blessed be. Our final hymn today is number 1018 from our teal hymnal or on the wall. Come and go with me to that land. As we pass around the offering basket this morning, I offer the gentle reminder to all of us that our community of faith is supported only by our giving. Our stewardship is more than just our financial donations. It's also donating time and talent to help out our church. As you see on the screen, there's all the different ways you can give, but we're also looking for volunteers right now so that we can have a setup and a breakdown committee. It doesn't take terribly long, but it is something that is weighing on our dedicated team of volunteers because they've been doing it every week in and out for months now, and we just need extra bodies to help set up the pews, the chairs, the audiovisual equipment. If you're interested, please talk to Alex or Katie after the service, and they will help you get set up with that. Otherwise, we'll be looking for other folks and maybe approached by somebody with a clipboard coming up soon. Give what you will and what you are able, for you are a generous people. Please join with me in our offering prayer this morning. May this offering equip us to inspire love and seek justice. Now, I have one announcement. Obviously, the ministers' hangout has been canceled this week because I will still be on isolation. I apologize. We will pick that back up with that in March. We are having a new members class for anybody who's interested the last week of the month. You can just send me an email and I'll get you that information. What are other things that are on that slide that I missed? I feel okay, that's most of it. So yeah, the other thing is we're just going to be masked today so that we're having a clean Sunday, and we are going to be doing a lot more social justice stuff coming up. So exciting things. We are having a very busy spring going forward, so a lot of good stuff going on. All right, I invite you to join with me in reciting our prayer as we extinguish our chalice this morning. The light of truth and meaning cannot be put out. We are the keepers of this flame until we meet again. The hardest commandment is the greatest. Love your neighbor as yourself. Truly see your value and the value of others. Treat yourself and the whole planet with justice, making, care, and compassion. Remind other religions that this is the beating heart of their teaching, and as we live into it, we will start to create a world of justice that the ancient prophets would be thrilled to see. Amen, and blessed be.
Amen.